Hey everybody, back again, and want to do something a little different today. Today is Halloween, and so I thought I would kind of talk about or review one of my favorite horror movies of all time. My favorite scary movie, right? Which is probably a little different than most people. But if you've read the title, if you clicked on here, you know it is Event Horizon, right? So Event Horizon is kind of a cult classic movie now. This is a sci-fi, so already it's got some points for me. Sci-fi horror movie from the 90s. And I kind of have a somewhat special relationship with this movie in that one of my first jobs in high school, I used to work at a movie theater, right? That's a whole video, and that's super fun job. I should do a video on that. Super fun job for a high schooler, work in a movie theater. And I was there when this movie came out. And this movie, when it was running, I was in this theater for probably about 4 years, probably 3-4 years I worked at this theater. It was my high school job. And in that time, Event Horizon was notorious. This was the only movie in that time frame I ever saw people consistently walk out of this movie all the time, right? On the big screen in a theater, this movie is scary as hell, right? Should I give, I guess, so when, I'll get into the movie in a minute here, but so little behind the scenes on movie theaters, right? So the Thursday nights before Friday new shows come out, the films come in these giant cans, and you have to build them up in the projection booth. And then before you show the print, you have to watch the movie. Usually the projectionist will do this late in the night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Someone's watching that print just to make sure that it's okay. It's put because you got to put it together right, no scratches. Just make sure the movie's good quality. You don't want to show a crap film, scratch to hell or whatever, and then you got to give refunds or something. Anyway, our projectionist, this is like 3 in the morning, watching this by himself. This is the only movie he could not finish. He had to just say, screw it, turn the film off, I hope it's good. It was too freaky for him, and that's like his job is to just watch movies by himself at night, right? When the movie ran, without fail, every time this showed, we would get a couple people at least. One time I remember when it first, there was like 10 people walked out and demanded their money. They wanted a refund back because the movie was just too much for them, right? And if you've seen the movie, you might understand why. I've never seen any other movie. You might get one or two. This movie sucks, but every show, people were leaving this one. It was crazy, right? And that's the only movie I ever saw that ever acted that way. An Event Horizon turned people away from the theater, which is pretty crazy. So what's this movie about? If you haven't seen it, spoilers ahead. It's a sci-fi movie in the near future. Well, it's distant. Well, it's in the future. And it's got a really cool setup. Basically, it's like a haunted house, right? But in space. It's really, really cool. So this experimental ship called the Event Horizon was like an experiment for faster than light travel. Disappeared on its inaugural mission, and then all of a sudden it just comes back a couple years later, drifting in space. And so a salvage crew, a rescue crew is sent out to investigate, right? And so it's a really cool kind of premise. So you got this crew, I think is it Neptune or something? It's far out in the solar system. And so the crew's got to go out and try and salvage the ship and see what goes on, right? So they get to the ship, and it's just totally empty and desolated. The gravity's turned off, so everything is just... This is still kind of early CGI, but you can see these CGI water bottles kind of floating in space. Dead bodies floating in space, and they got to turn the gravity on, get the ship powered up, right? And then try and figure out what goes on. Problem is it turns out, I guess, the ship, when it traveled faster than light, the ship kind of, it went to hell, right? The ship goes to hell or some hell dimension, and it like possesses the crew, and they just have this kind of satanic orgy. I mean, literally, it's like a satanic orgy on this ship, and they just tear each other apart. It's like Hellraiser plus disgusting crap that happens to this crew, and then the ship comes back, and it's like haunted, right, by a ghost, and there's just blood everywhere. It's like a slaughterhouse ship, right? Really cool. And then it happens, they bring along one of the designers, engineers who helped to build the ship, and he's like super attached to it because this is his baby. And he ends up kind of becoming possessed by this ship and starts disfiguring himself because, you know, it's giving him powers. And like kind of one by one, he starts offing the crew. So I mean, it's a typical haunted house horror story film. But again, it's really cool because it's in space, it's sci-fi, and it's done really smart, right? They use elements like zero gravity, you know, just to make things super creepy when things are floating in space. There's this one thing is like blood, I think what it was, right? Just like floating in zero G, and then they turn it on and it all like rains down, and the anti-gravity engine is this really, for whatever reason, they designed it to be this really like demonic, twisted looking spear. The ship itself, I looked into it. The designers of the movie like made it look like some kind of Gothic cathedral. Like the ship is just really, it looks like Notre Dame in space. It's just really like creepy looking, right? But the sci-fi part is cool because like, you know, the rescue ship has like these like sleep couches. They got, you know, suspended animation for the crew, and it's got little like arm, like the sci-fi is like really well done. Like you can just tell like the universe that this is in, they put a lot of thought into it, right? Like it takes, you know, months to go out to Neptune, or maybe even years. So they're like totally stranded, totally isolated in space. And you know, they got to go and like recover data from the ship's computers, and they start getting like these little like grainy video footage of what the crew does, and that's what turned a lot of people off, because it's just these quick flashes of the most twisted stuff you can imagine. My friends and I, when it came out on video, or DVD, I think this is one of the first movies to kind of come out on DVD, you know, like what the hell is going on? So we would like pause it and see, and it's literally like a bunch of naked, bloody people screwing each other to death, like literally like all sorts of nasty. And I think there's even more footage you could probably find online if you were to look at it. But it's just, you know, it's so graphic. It's just small tidbits, but it's so graphic and you see just enough to like, oh my, what the. That's what turned people away, right? There's this really cool sequence in the beginning when the engineer is like brushing his teeth in a space station, right? But the camera kind of like slowly, kind of because it's zero G's in space, kind of slowly zooms in or zooms out from him. I can't remember. But like on the big screen, I remember it kind of has like an IMAX feel to it, like because it's the way they rotated the camera at just the right speed and angle. Like I remember getting nauseous in the theater watching it because it's like, oh, whoa. Like they did it just right, and I think that turned a lot of people off, and like they felt sick just kind of watching that sequence. Also, a lot of people probably walked out because they just thought it was a sci-fi movie and had no idea what the hell they were getting into. There's this cool sequence. This guy's like no spacesuit and gets ejected into space, right? So he's decompressing, and there's like blood. It's so good. Like it's such a smart movie how it uses the environment and the setting to just make things creepy, right? And you know, with a lot of horror movies, they're so cliche and they're so predictable, and like you've seen that, you know, you've seen that story, you've seen that setup a million times, but this is a fresh take on it because again, the acting is good, the The art design is really good. Like the movie, just it looks creepy, and the story is unique. The ship goes to hell. How cool is that? And just it's so well done. Actually, it didn't really do well when it came out. A lot of people getting refunds on tickets. That eats at your box office. But it's kind of a cult classic now. And like I said, when it comes to scary movies, I'm just not the guy that gets scared very much. But that one, I think probably Event Horizon ruined it for me, right? Ever since, everything else that you watch really isn't that scary. So, but if you haven't seen it, do check it out. Like I said, it's a cult classic. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere, or you can find it. But definitely worth your time. It's not as good on the small screen. It's just something creepy about big theater with that surround sound and the big, huge screen like in your face. It definitely adds to the movie. This is one of those movies that's not as good on your TV, unless you got a giant TV. It's not as good as it would be if it was in the theater. But definitely worth a shot at. Definitely check it out. Super cool movie. I won't spoil the ending, I guess, but it's a cult classic, but it deserves even more praise than that because it's such a good movie, and there's times it can be pretty scary. Man, I'm thinking of all of them right now. That scene where he's in like the green little air vents room with all the circuit boards around him, right? Like, it's just visually, it's a cool movie because of the sci-fi setting. Anyway, okay, all right, I gotta go. Event Horizon, there we go, my ad hoc movie review. So we'll see how that works. I got things to do today. I know you do too. Happy Halloween. Get a boatload of candy and save all the peanut butter cups for me, right? Okay, I don't know. I'll catch you later.